Around 5 to 6 years ago, I began to feel the presence of some beings in the room during our week-long events. Initially, these events were 5-day, 4.5-day workshops, and it was during the pineal gland meditations that I started perceiving certain energies. Although there were other meditations too, it was during this meditation that I could sense an energy in the room. These presences were very noble, and they were genuinely interested in what we were doing. In the beginning, they mostly observed, and they would stand along the walls. They were not small. In fact, they were very tall, and I would estimate their height to be around 3 meters or more. They had a graceful presence, and their observation was almost palpable. As I began seeing and perceiving these beings, I didn't ask who they were. Instead, I just observed. During the pineal gland meditations, I would usually be up at 3 in the morning or even earlier, and I would be working with the audience the whole time. Sometimes I would close my eyes while doing the meditations, and a lot of times I would open my eyes only to realize that I was in theta, and the door between the conscious and subconscious mind was wide open. It was almost as if I was dreaming with my eyes open, and this is when I began to perceive things more strongly. Interestingly, people in the audience began reporting things back to me. Sometimes 2 different people in a room of 1,000 people would report seeing the same thing. It was almost as if we were collectively noticing something happening. During one of the events, while I was getting ready for the day and I was between worlds, the beings started talking to me. They mentioned that they could only lower their frequency to a certain point, and if I could raise the frequency of the audience to a higher frequency, they would meet us in that place where the energy intersects. It was almost like there was an invitation or a door for them to move through or to exist as. They mentioned that they couldn't lower their frequency anymore because they would change their consciousness, and they loved themselves too much to do that. It was as if they were an older sister or brother who totally loved and approved of us and our work. They saw that we were making an effort and making great strides, and they were just a little bit higher on the spiral of consciousness. Over the course of several years, something extraordinary has been happening. It's not something I talk about often for fear of jinxing it. The experience is wild and inconsistent, but it's real. In fact, we have a couple of testimonials to prove it. These testimonials recount stories of people who have been healed by a mysterious being that can be quite aggressive at times. One woman had a severe problem with her hip and knee, and while she was in the midst of a healing, the being grabbed her leg and shook it vigorously until it released. Despite her cries of pain, the being persisted until the problem was resolved. It's hard to explain how this being operates, but what's important is that the experience is very real to the person involved. As it turns out, when you open your heart, it begins to move into coherence, producing a measurable magnetic field that can be up to 3 meters wide. This frequency carries information and intent. When you're feeling gratitude and your heart is open, you're broadcasting energy into the field. This frequency can carry the thought of your wealth or health. However, if you're suffering, that energy carries a different set of thoughts. We teach people how to self-regulate because to believe in the future you imagine with all of your heart, it needs to be open and activated. If you're disconnected from the energy of your future because of some circumstance in your life and you lose that feeling, you need to be able to self-regulate and change the frustration from some experience in your life back to the energy of your future. It requires great awareness and effort, but it's a skill that can be learned and sustained. We have evidence that people can sustain this state of mind for up to 45 minutes to an hour. They know that they know how to do it. They have brain coherence and heart coherence, and it's all thanks to the community of people that are practicing this on a daily basis. They are connected to their future because that's where their mind is. They want the future more than the emotions of the past. This experience is something that is difficult to explain, but it's very real to those who have experienced it. By opening your heart and practicing self-regulation, you can create a frequency that carries the thoughts of your wealth or health. It's a skill that can be learned and sustained, and the evidence is in the brain and heart coherence that people experience. So open your heart, practice self-regulation, and connect to the future that you want. As we go about our daily lives, our hearts and brains are constantly interacting with each other. And when our hearts become coherent and orderly, they act as amplifiers, driving energy to the brain. This results in the brain receiving more energy, allowing us to think differently and produce different chemicals that make us feel better. One such chemical is nitric oxide, which is produced by oxytocin. As nitric oxide floods the body, the heart literally begins to open up and swell. This results in even more energy flowing to the heart and brain, allowing us to access a different level of mind. When our brains and hearts are in a state of coherence, we have a laser of energy that can read information much better. But when we live in a state of stress, our brains become scattered, constantly shifting our attention from one thing to another. This constant shifting of attention can lead to the arousal of stress hormones, which drive the brain into a high frequency. In this state, we try to control and predict everything in our lives, firing our brain circuits like a lightning storm in the clouds. When our brains are incoherent, we are incoherent. Our signals become jumbled, and we are unable to connect to the energy and information that surrounds us. But when people synchronize their energy into coherence, they can synchronize to a possibility in the future. This allows them to connect to the universe and the energy that surrounds us. Synchronicities become feedback from the environment, guiding us to follow the breadcrumbs and leading us toward our future. As we think and feel, we send out electrical and magnetic signals that influence every single atom in our lives. Our thoughts send out a signal, while our feelings draw the event back to us. If we want to manifest wealth, health, or success, we must balance our thoughts and feelings. We cannot simply have the intent and wait for the experience to happen. We must feel the emotion in order to draw the experience to us. Teaching people how to balance their thoughts and feelings is crucial in entering this cycle. Once we have achieved this balance, we can sustain a state of coherence and transform our old reality into something new. This new reality is a vibrational match to our future, and as we continue to think and feel in coherence, our future begins to give us signals and guide us toward our destiny. No longer do we wake up in the morning feeling like we need to meditate to create our future. Instead, we wake up feeling excited to see what the universe has in store for us. We want to sustain this state of coherence so that our old reality can transform into something new and exciting. This transformation happens because as we reach a state of coherence, we align ourselves with the vibrational frequency of our future. Our energy becomes a match for the possibilities that lie ahead of us. As a result, the synchronicities and feedback we receive from the universe guide us towards our desired outcome. But in order to maintain this state of coherence, we must learn to balance our thoughts and feelings. We cannot simply think positive thoughts without feeling them, or feel positive emotions without aligning our thoughts with them. It is the combination of both thought and feeling that creates the energetic vibration necessary to attract our desired outcome. For example, if we want to manifest wealth, we must not only think about it, but also feel the emotions associated with having wealth. We must feel gratitude, joy, and abundance as if we already have it. This sends out a strong magnetic signal to the universe that we are a vibrational match for wealth, and it draws the experience of wealth toward